Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jim Hovland, and this is your Mayor's Minute for the City of Edina. It is Wednesday, July 1st, 2020. Where did June go? On Monday, we talked about the fact that we were creating a dashboard that you can all see at edinamn.gov/coronavirus. And that online dashboard is going to show cases of COVID by age group, race, and likely exposure. We talked about the fact that we have information now from the Minnesota Department of Health that almost 300 of our residents have contracted COVID since February, and we've had 35 people lose their lives because of this disease. We talked about the age groups that were most vulnerable. And of course, the most vulnerable group is the folks over 65 years of age. The second highest vulnerability group and the second highest category of cases now we're finding in the 20 to 29-year-old age group. With all of this in mind and the requests of many of our residents to look at whether or not we should have a masking policy, we determined that to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community, the council met and directed me to sign an executive order that would require people to wear face masks inside public spaces in Edina. This order is going to go into effect this coming Monday, July 6th. We'll talk about that order here momentarily. In that special meeting this week to discuss the masking policy and a potential implementation of a masking policy, we agreed that requiring masks indoors is a reasonable step to protect the public health during this pandemic. Health officials are increasingly urging non-medical workers to wear facial coverings to help curb the spread of COVID-19 by preventing the transmission of respiratory droplets that contain the virus. Experts have also determined that masks may reduce the risk of transmission by an infected person, in addition to using the age-old ideas of social distancing, keeping that physical distance of 6 feet, and then continual proper hand washing. Under the policy that will go into effect on Monday, people must cover their nose and mouth with a mask or a cloth face covering. And according to the order, this will include all retail establishments and city-owned public facilities like City Hall. It will not include recreational facilities owned by the city. So masks do not need to be worn inside the city recreational facilities like Braemar Arena or Edinburgh Park, where you can socially distance without too much difficulty. There are some other exceptions that were recommended by the CDC, which we adopted for this order. You need to use facial coverings if you are a person who is eating or drinking, having a meal in a restaurant, having a drink in a restaurant. Kids under the age of 5, we have determined are not subject to this ordinance. The CDC recommends age 2, but we thought that was impractical. One of the folks in our community who runs a preschool said they can't keep shoes on kids that are 2 years old, much less a face mask. So we decided to put the age at 5. People with medical conditions that make it difficult to breathe, those folks do not have to use a face mask. And those who might be deaf or hard of hearing, or those who care for or interact with them, will also not be subject to this order. And people who are unable to remove a mask without assistance will also not be subject to this order. We realize this is an inconvenience, and none of us like this so-called social engineering that we have to engage in, but it's got to be done for the overall good of the community. We're putting this policy in place because we care about the health and well-being of our residents and all of you here in our community of Edina. We want you to remain healthy. We also care about our businesses located in Edina, and we don't want them to have to close or reduce their services because of exposure or limited staffing due to contraction of the COVID virus. The policy goes into effect on Monday, July 6th. As I mentioned earlier, the City Council will meet in another special session on July 8th to consider extending it beyond the 3 days for which I'm authorized to issue this order. So this is Jim Hovland. This is your Mayor's Minute. We want you all to stay healthy. We want you to enjoy the holiday weekend. Make sure you keep that distance. As Mike Osterholm says, distance is number one. wear that mask, keep other people safe, respect others, and we'll see you next week.